Have you ever wondered why there's a difference between thoughts and emotions? Have you ever wondered why it's so easy to control our thoughts? In the space of 10 seconds, we can think of 5 different things if we wish. But it's notoriously difficult to control emotions. Well, there's a very simple answer. And the simple answer is that thoughts and emotions are processed in different parts of the brain. I'm sure all you know that. You look a very intelligent audience, so I'm sure you know all this stuff. But I'll bore you if you already do. The thoughts are processed in the left brain, and emotions are processed in the right brain. Okay, what do we mean by emotions? Well, really, the word is bigger than just emotions. When we talk about emotions, we're really talking about feelings, aren't we? But the word in this context, what is processed in the right brain, is virtually everything which cannot be pinned down, everything which you can't define, very often things which you can't understand, and certainly things which are totally out of our control. Things like inspiration, intuition, dreams, and of course the whole wide range of what we generally call spiritual gifts and talents. Things like clairvoyance, clairaudience, psychometry, healing, inspirational speaking, automatic writing, and so on and so on and so on. Now, all of those things actually are reputedly done far better by ladies than gentlemen. But please, don't tell Ivan or Derek that, or Keith that I've said that, else probably they'll have me thrown out. So, because ladies supposedly are far better at all those things, then the right brain is the feminine side of the brain. And perhaps we ought to expand the umbrella term to mean spirituality rather than emotions. So, right brain, feminine, spirituality. Left brain, totally different, absolutely different. Left brain is masculine, macho. This is the side that has got to be defined. This is the side that's factual. We gentlemen like things really solid, concrete. We like logic. We like reason. We like calculation. We like mathematics. Strange to relate, boys traditionally at school are far better at mathematics and science than girls. And girls are far better at the what are generally called the arts subjects, languages and so on and so on. So, left brain, masculine. Mathematics. 2 plus 2 will always equal 4. No matter how many times you try to change it, you won't. 2 plus 2 equals 4. That can be predicted. Anything that can be defined and predicted and so on is left brain. And of course, since science, the whole of science, relies largely on mathematics, then left brain is the scientific brain. As far as a scientist is concerned, no experiment is valid unless or until it can be duplicated. And not just duplicated, it can be, the result can be repeated over and over again. And that's why no scientist will ever accept spirituality in all its forms. One of the, I won't name him, but he is a television personality, a very, very good teacher, an outstanding scientist. You know probably who I'm talking about. And he calls anything connected with spirituality woo-woo stuff. Scientists will never, ever understand spirituality because it can't be measured. It can't be repeated. You can never predict it. You can never actually force it to come in. So, that is what it is. Left brain, masculine, scientific. Now, most people don't realise, and I must admit that I personally didn't until fairly recently, that physically the left brain controls the right-hand side of the body and the right brain controls the left-hand side of the body. That is a fact. If you don't believe it, ask any medical practitioner and they will confirm it. Now we're going to do a little, I was going to say a little experiment, but I daren't upset scientists, so we're going to do a little demonstration. Are you ready? You've got both hands free? Good. This is what you will need. I want you to put your left hand up. Left hand by the side of your head. Okay. Face palm facing your temple. Now your left hand, of course, is your spiritual hand, isn't it? And it's your feminine hand. So we're going to give our left hand, we're going to talk to our left hand. Oof, this is woo-woo stuff, isn't it? We're going to talk to our left hand and we're going to make her into a little face. Make her into a little face. I hope your face is a little bit more solid and firm than mine. Keep still. Right. We're going to give her a name. And since the right brain is spirituality and left brain is feminine and connected with that, we're going to call her Spirit. Okay? Right. I want you to say hello to Spirit. Get to know her. Hello, Spirit.
Hello, Spirit.
Right? Keep her there. You're going to use her in a minute. Right. Now then, put your right hand up. And exactly the same. He is obviously masculine. Make a little face of him. Right? There he is. Now, we're going to give him a scientific name. Scientists are always talking about energy. So therefore, we're going to call him Energy. Say hello to him. Hello, Energy. Hello. Big deep voice. Down there. Okay? Now then, we're going to introduce Energy to Spirit. I want you to do it individually, by yourself, and remember, ladies' names always come first when you're introducing. Spirit, I want you to meet Energy. Hello. Energy, I want you to meet Spirit. Hello. Right. Now, what happens? Instant attraction. Love at first sight. And they go together. I hope they go together a little bit better than mine. Mine won't. And it's always tip of the fingers to tip of the fingers. And it makes a round ball. Right? Have you all got it? Excellent. I can't do it, but you can. And as you know, they come together, they immediately become an item. And as you know, when two human beings become an item, I will be very delicate, considering that ladies are present. Shall we say that the juices start to flow? And immediately you do that. The juices do start to flow, and the juices of energy flow into spirit. And the juices of spirit flow into energy. And within a very short space of time, we have a totally different entity. We're going to call this new entity spiritual energy. It's all spirit, and at the same time it is all energy. Now this is the symbol, if you're doing it correct, which I'm not. This is the symbol of the new age. Okay, you can put your hands down now. It's the symbol of the new age. This is the start of everything. This symbol is going to bring in the new age all over the world. So, you might be a bit cynical, probably are. You say, well, so what? We've got symbols all over the place. What's so new about this one? Well, at any rate, what the devil is this new age you're talking about? Let's answer the second question first. The new age. Astronomically, this is astronomical science. This is not me. Astronomically, there is something which is called the precession of the equinoxes. The precession of the equinoxes. And that is a phenomenon that occurs and has occurred all through history. What's it all about? Well, you may or may not know that a solar year always starts on the 21st of March. And a solar year is either 364, 305 or 366 years long. It is fixed, it's actually 365 and a quarter or something like that. But an Earth year is very slightly different. Only very slightly. It's only about, I think, just under 4 minutes difference. And that means that there is, at the end of 1 year, there is a difference of 4 minutes. And the Earth has already started on its next orbit before the complete solar year. That doesn't matter in the space of 1 year, or 2 years, or 10 years, or 100 years. But if you get to 2,000 years, it makes a huge difference. And 2,000 years later, it will appear that looking from the Earth, looking at the Sun will have appeared to move into a different constellation, or, if you like, a different star sign, a different sign of the zodiac. Now, I'm going to do a little demonstration for you. I want you to look at the point of my elbow. That is going to represent the Earth. And then look at the tip of my finger. That is going to represent the Sun. And up here somewhere is going to represent the zodiac, the signs of the zodiac, which of course are constellations. Look what happens. 6,000 years ago, there's the Earth, there's the Sun, and up here the fingers pointing to, keep still you devils, are pointing to the sign of Taurus. 2,000 years later, the Earth has moved on. And now they're pointing to the symbol of Aries, the sign before. 2,000 years later, they're pointing to the symbol of Pisces. And now they're pointing to the symbol of Aquarius. Every time that the Sun appears to go into a new sign, that is called a new age. So, over the last 6,000 years, we've had the Taurian age, the Aryan age, the Piscean age, and now the Aquarian age. How many of you remember? Are there any senior citizens, really senior citizens here, who can remember back to the 60s?
Yes.
Are there? Oh, my, you look far too young for that. Okay, looking back to the 60s, what was the big hit musical? Hair. Right? And what was the big song out of Hair? The Age of Aquarius. Right, we are now in the Age of Aquarius. Now that's one thing, that is absolutely astronomically correct. And even scientists will agree, although they don't like this word age, at least the facts are correct. Precession of the equinoxes, etc. But now we get to something which is a bit more dubious. Well, in fact, as far as science is concerned, it doesn't exist at all. Across the universe, there is a stream of energy, which is called the photon band, or some people call it the photon belt, or occasionally photon beam. Doesn't matter. I'll call it photon band. Now, this is a stream of energy. It's actually a stream of consciousness. Scientists dispute it even exists. Why? Because they can't detect it. Why can't they detect it? Because there is no instrument on Earth yet which can detect consciousness. No instrument which can detect, shining up and detect thought. Doesn't exist. But there's no instrument to detect inspiration or intuition, which scientists also say doesn't exist. But we, of course, know it does, don't we? Okay, so this is disputed. Even the very existence of the photon band is disputed by scientists. But psychics all over the planet can not only vouch for it, they feel it. And possibly, over the last few years, some of you have been feeling it as well. Have you had strange disruptions in your life? Have you felt off balance? All of this is due to the photon band, which actually started hitting the Earth about 25 years ago. I should explain that it is, I'm going to give you a little analogy. As you know, the word analogy means an everyday occurrence which serves to help someone to understand a wider a concept, a more difficult concept. And what I'm going to give you is an analogy of a lighthouse. Now, you all know what a lighthouse is. A lighthouse sends out beams of light and sends out the beam for a certain number of seconds and then switches off. Waits a certain number of seconds and then another beam. And the actual pattern of light emissions, some long, some short, and the interval between them means that every lighthouse around the whole coast of England, of the UK, can be identified. So all that sailors do, they say, right, two dashes and 3 dots or something like that at intervals of X, Y, Z. They look it up in a book. Oh yes, we must be near the Mumbles or whatever, Fastnet or etc. Okay? So we've got that as a simple little analogy. Now this is what happens with the photon band, because there's a pulse of energy. It's not measured in seconds, of course. It's measured. The last time that it switched off was about 10 or 11,000 years later. And it heralded the end of what's called the last golden age. I was going to say, do you remember that? But I don't think any of you are quite that old. But you have heard of it, of course. What was the last golden age of mankind? The age of Atlantis. And according to all legends, Atlantis was the fabulous time, the height of civilization of mankind, ever. Well, whenever the photon band is actually hitting the Earth, the consciousness of mankind is raised. And there is a long period, 2,000 years or more, of peace and prosperity. A long period of peace because the consciousness of man has been so raised, mankind, sorry ladies, I always want to, as my late wife said, I always was a male chauvinist pig. But at any rate, when I say man, I mean mankind. The consciousness of mankind was raised to such an extent that everyone realised that war was stupid, absolutely stupid. War never ever solves any problems. War only creates more problems. What happened in 1918? The end of the First World War. And as a result of the settlements that were done then, Germany was hit with so many sanctions, rightly or wrongly, depends which side of the fighting you were on, that it started to breed resentment. And that resentment increased until 20 years later it brought in Nazism. And it brought in the Second World War. And it was only at the end of the Second World War that nations actually sat down and talked to each other and negotiated with each other. That peace was finally restored in Europe. And that peace has reigned for the last 70 years or so. Almost 70 years. So, when mankind realises this, that there's no war is stupid, there's no more war. When mankind realises that any domination by one person of another person is basically unjust, then there is no more slavery. There is no more exploitation. There is no more discrimination. This is the golden age of man. And now, 25 years ago, the photon band started its emissions again. And we are at the dawn of the new age, the new golden age, when all of those things will be happening. Okay then, fair enough, I can accept that. What's this rubbish about a single? I have to give you another analogy. I don't know how many of you, I wouldn't think there are many people here who are quite as old as me, but when I was a kid, we didn't have television. I don't think television had even been invented when I was born. So therefore we couldn't sit with iPads and things like that playing electronic games all day. We had to go out and make our own amusements. So as kids, we always used to like to go out into the fields. and we went out in the fields, we used to light bonfires. How did we light bonfires? Nobody had any matches. What we did, we got somebody's spectacles, borrowed them, and we focused the rays of the sun on a bit of dried grass, set it alight. As soon as we got a light, obviously, we could light our bonfires. The symbol is a focus. The symbol is a lens. And it will focus, or whenever you see it, it immediately focuses the energy of the photon band. And anyone who sees it is immediately affected by it. Okay, what does it do? All of us have our barriers. We've heard a lot about barriers from very, very clever women in industry and commerce recently, saying that there is a glass ceiling which stops very able women being promoted to top positions. I think, if I remember rightly, the number of women who are chief officers at the top of the tree in major industries in this country can be literally counted on one hand, probably excluding the thumb. So therefore, women face discrimination. They face this, what's called the glass ceiling. So, we know what that means. Some people have an educational ceiling. If you have only ever been educated to the level of primary school, you will never ever be unable to understand information which is given to college students or university students. You don't have the basic knowledge to understand what's being talked about. So that's another ceiling. Some people, of course, have their ceilings imposed by religions. Some people have ceilings imposed by political parties. If you ever went to live in North Korea, you would have a lot of ceilings imposed by indoctrination. You may have ceiling imposed by being too educated. Scientists have their own ceiling. They have no possibility of even thinking about spirituality. It doesn't exist. That's their ceiling. Talking about scientists, I've got nothing to against scientists, by the way, but I will give you another example of a ceiling, and that is peer pressure. About 90 years ago, between 1925 and 1927, there was a new approach to physics. Several young physicists, brilliant young physicists, Max Planck was one of them, started talking about quantum physics. All the scientific establishment said, rubbish, absolute rubbish, and peer pressure. And they gave it the name of Knabberphysik, which is the German name for little lads' physics. They ridiculed it, and yet now, today, nobody, no scientist, ridicules it, because it is part of mainstream science. So, we've all got, every one of us, you might think of what your ceiling is, I don't know, but every one of us has our own ceilings. So what does the symbol do? It completely wipes out all ceilings. It can't exist. It does not pass information. It does not pass knowledge. And So it cannot possibly indoctrinate anybody in religious or political or any other way. But what it will do is raise the possibility of the individual to take in more information, to learn faster, and also, more important than that even, it will allow the individual to understand what is being taught. And that is a very great thing. So, who benefits? What class of people would benefit? Do the old benefit more than the young, or do scientists benefit more than religious people, or do thin people benefit more than fat people, or whatever? Are there any limits? The answer is no. Everyone. We are all human beings, and every human being is immediately touched by this energy. Do you need to understand it? No. As soon as you see that symbol, you've got the energy. You don't need to understand anything. Show it to a child. They immediately have the energy. Children, of course, will benefit far more than any of us, because children are the future. They're the future of the human race. And they are the people who will really bring in worldwide this huge movement. They will usher in the golden age. They will benefit. But everyone who sees the symbol will immediately benefit. How does it, or how will it be disseminated? Well, here I've got to give you another analogy. And this analogy is slightly less happy than the others, because I'm going to give you the analogy of the flu virus. Let me say straight at the beginning, a flu virus is always harmful. The symbol cannot ever be harmful. It is there for the benefit of humanity. So you must understand that. When I'm talking about a flu virus, I'm not talking, or when I'm talking about the symbol being like the flu virus, I'm not suggesting that the symbol can ever be harmful. It can't. So, having accepted that, then we can possibly understand the analogy. Over the last 90 years, almost 100 years, we've had massive flu epidemics. Just after the First World War, 1918, there was a huge flu epidemic which killed 2 million people worldwide. Back in 1956, there was the start of a huge flu epidemic, Asian flu. Some of you will remember that. Recently, of course, we've had bird flu, and we've had swine flu, I think was the last one. And we know that someone in the middle of Asia, or in the middle of South America, remote village, sneezes. And within weeks, that virus is all over the world. The symbol is far more powerful than that, because the symbol is immediate. There is no delay at all, passing it from person to person. I give it to you today, you turn around to another lady, you've passed it on. She turns around to someone else, it's passed on. It can be done in the space of minutes. No flu virus can do that. But there's another thing which is equally important, if not more important, and that is that the energy cannot be barred. There's no barrier. There's no vaccination against that. And there's no cure. You can cure a virus. You can cure flu. You can't do. Not that you'd want to. But that is how powerful it is. How does it work? Why does it go directly into the person's being? And how can it be so very, very powerful? This time last week I couldn't have told you. But on Monday I had a birthday party, 80th birthday, and my children came from all over the world to be with me that night, from Australia, from Canada, and in this country from different places. The Australian contingent flew back from Heathrow the next day. But the remainder, the ones that were left here, we all went to lunch. And I sat opposite one of my granddaughters, the brain box of the whole family, who 2 or 3 years ago got a first-class honours in biological sciences. And I showed her the symbol. And she said, "Oh, I know all about that." I said, "What?" She said, "I know all about that." I said, "How do you know it?" And she said, "Well, I've learnt it. That is the anaphase stage of cell mitosis." What? So she very kindly explained in words of one syllable, suitable for a baby to understand, or a very doddery old grandad, what it was. Mitosis is the process within a human body where one cell splits into two. And the anaphase stage is the last stage before those two cells become independent. And it is that. I looked it up on Google. Look it up yourself. And it shows you a photograph of the anaphase stage of cell mitosis. And it's that. This explains why, as soon as you see it, should any human being sees it, it goes straight into their being. It doesn't go through the brain. Straight into their being. Because it is part of the very blueprint of a human being. That is why it is so powerful. All over history, mankind has known the value of putting two hands together. The left hand of spirit and the right hand of, shall we call it, reason, logic, reason. What is the standard position for prayer? I remember 75 years ago, I started Sunday school. The first thing we were told, hands together, eyes closed. There it is. In many cultures today, the standard greeting, and of course the standard party. If you sit, many of you sit obviously for meditation. What is the standard way to sit for meditation? You sit, you cup your hands like that and put them in your lap, or you may hold them out. That's the standard way. It's not the only way, but spiritual. and the rational together to help you to understand something. Very often, and I see, sir, you are doing this, very often someone who has to think very deeply in their profession will sit like that. I didn't know that I ever did it, but as soon as I showed my children, they said, "Oh, you've always done that. We've always known that." Exactly the same. Bringing together the spiritual with the rational. Well, let me say one final thing before I close. The final thing is that you cannot transmit this information by electronic means unless you show the symbol. It has got to be face to face. This is why we could possibly have transmitted it all over the world by a video. But if you just put it down on print, or if you just describe it, nothing happens at all. Why doesn't it happen? If you see anything in print, or you hear anything, immediately your own left brain kicks in, and you're within your ceiling. No energy will pass at all. Right, that's all. Now, how many of you would like to see the new age come in? Put your hands up. How many of you? I think we can safely say, you sir as well, okay, we can safely say 100%. Here's a harder question for you. How many of you think that you personally can do anything at all to bring it in? Good. Wonderful. We have some very enlightened people here. Congratulations. For the rest of you, I'll say you're wrong. Because you can do just as much as anybody to bring this in. How can you? By showing other people the symbol. Remember that as soon as you show it, it's passed on. The person doesn't need to understand it. It's passed on. So, may I suggest, and this is what I've been told by upstairs, that from this room, here and now, this will be the start of the new age. Because all of you will go out of the room and you'll talk to everyone else who's in the building. And you'll show them the symbol. They won't know it. They needn't know about it. They needn't know what it is. But you show it to them. And from this conference, on Monday morning, when you all go, 500 people will go all over the country. You will all take the symbol with you. Show it to your friends. And it will mushroom from this room. It will mushroom all over the UK. It will then flash all over Europe and all over the world. It's already in America. It's already in Canada. It's already in Australia. And today in Australia, there was a rally, 5,000 people. They were shown the symbol. All because I contacted one person in Australia, and she passed it on to somebody who passed it on to somebody else who is on a podium today in front of 5,000 people. But you have a vital role to play. I'm sorry, Ashley, I've overrun, radically overrun. Please excuse me. Ladies and gentlemen, please excuse me. Good night.